It's not replacing your leadership, but we're removing the friction that keeps you from leading. But here's the thing. This is the part most AI hype channels aren't going to tell you. There were two areas where AI completely failed. And those failures they made me aware, at least, of exactly what makes you, me, irreplaceable as leaders in this organization. What would happen if I handed my entire leadership week over to AI? The meeting prep, the one-on-ones, the strategic planning, the follow-ups, all of it. Guess what? I tried it. For one full week, I let artificial intelligence run my leadership. And what happened? It honestly surprised me. Some things, AI crushed it. Better than I've ever done them before. And I've been doing this for 20-something years. Other things, total disaster. And if that's exactly what you need to hear, because the leaders who figure out where AI fits and where it doesn't are the ones who are going to dominate 2026. So stay with me. Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I'm your host, John Espinosa. Today, I'm going to share my little story, my experience. And one of the important things, stick with us through the end. You're not going to want to miss it. Make sure you're clicking on that subscribe button. It does me a favor, and I promise to show up in each one of these episodes to deliver you the facts, the stories, the tactical things that you can do to be a better leader and thus make your teams better. So a leader reached out to me a few weeks ago, and he's been managing, I think, a team. It was about 40 to 45, right? People for several years. Good leader, works very hard, cares about his people. And he told me something that I hear all the time. He said, John, I spend 60% of my week on stuff that has absolutely nothing to do with leading people. It's that meeting prep. It's the status updates, the performance summaries, all those follow-up emails. You know, he was buried in work that kept him so busy that he didn't have any time to make himself better. So I just asked him the simple question. I said, what if AI could handle that 60%? And he chuckled. He said, I wouldn't even know where to start. And that's the conversation that stuck with me because I hear some version of it every single week. Everybody out there, leaders, you are drowning in tasks that don't require your judgment, that don't require your empathy, your humanity, but you're doing them anyways because that's how you've always done them. So I decided to run an experiment. For one full week, this is what I did. I handed over as much of my leadership workflow as possible to AI. The meeting prep, those one-on-ones, the weekly planning, the follow-ups, the performance summaries. And what happened, it honestly surprised me. 3 tasks, AI crushed them. Better, really, than I could have ever done them before. 2 of them, complete failures. And those failures taught me something that every leader needs to understand right now. So by the end of this episode, you're going to know exactly which leadership tasks that AI, they can own, which ones that only you can do, and how to run your own AI leadership audit this week. So let's get into it. Here's what we're going to cover today. 3 big ideas that will change how you lead with AI without losing what makes us human. So the first one, I'm going to talk about my experiment. What I handed over to AI and what actually happened. The real results, there's no hype here. I want you all to walk away with really a sense of what I went through in my mindset. The second topic we're going to talk about is where AI won and where it failed. So there was 3 tasks. AI handled them better than me, but there was 2. We completely fell apart, and it was hard for me to continue on with the experiment, but I did it because I knew the lessons learned were going to be valuable, and I'm going to share those with you today. And then that AI leadership audit. So this is a practical framework, and this is something I want to share with you because you can use it this week to figure out exactly where AI fits into your leadership workflow. So by the end of this episode, you're going to understand why most leaders are either ignoring AI, and I find a lot of people, they ignore it completely. They bury their head in the sound. Or what they're doing, they're using it wrong. The specific tasks that AI can own so you can lead at a higher level, and then that step-by-step audit procedure so you can run with it. You can run it with your team before Friday of this week. So the big thing here, I want to set this up and really understand. I want to help you understand why I ran this experiment. There was a couple really staggering statistics that I looked at, and one of them was that IBM's 2026 leadership trends reports, right? This report identified the biggest shift happening right now. And one of the biggest shift is AI is moving from that individual productivity to team and workflow orchestration. So this was huge for me because I'm seeing that shift. I talked to many of you out there, many of the clients, many leaders that I interact with. We're finding that AI is being used more for team productivity than individual productivity. And that means AI isn't just another tool for writing emails faster. It's becoming a system that can manage entire workflows in organizations. But here's what the problem: most leaders are they're either igniting that flame or they're dabbling in it without strategy. So I wanted to test it honestly, not as a tech evangelist, but as a working leader, and share what actually happened. Just a quick pause in our episode. This might be exactly what you need to hear. If you're currently leading a team or you want to lead a team and you're spending your days putting out fires, you're not failing, you're just stuck. Because when everything feels urgent, nothing actually improves. And over time, that starts to chip away at our confidence as a leader. I've led teams under pressure for years, and firefighting isn't about effort, it's about those missing leadership systems. When expectations are clear and ownership is real, our teams, they stop reacting and they start solving problems without us. So if you're ready to lead instead of react, click on the link below, book a call, check out our consulting programs. All right, back to the episode. So the 5 tasks that I gave AI, the first one, meeting prep. And what I did here, I'm going to go over each one of these. Well, let me just do the 5 tasks first. Meeting prep, one-on-one agendas, weekly planning, follow-up conversations, and performance summaries. So those were the 5 tasks. Now, what I did with each task, the meeting prep, I reviewed our past notes, the agendas, AI. I gave this to AI. They reviewed our past notes. I had it review our past notes, any agendas and action items to generate what it came out with, a pre-brief for every single meeting. And the tool I used here, I use ChatGPT and Claude, just depending on which one that I have folders in, but both of them you can upload documents, right? The time that I saved, I saw a 60% reduction here. And we'll get into the specifics. I just wanted to overview though. The other thing that one of the other tasks that I had AI use was the one-on-one agendas. So here what AI did is it drafted those personalized agendas based on each person's recent performance. And then I even gave it prior one-on-one notes that I kept and then project status. So the tool here is any type of AI performance data upload. Again, you can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude, or if you have a performance system that you use within your organizations, go ahead and use that. So the estimated time that I saved here is around 45-ish minutes per week. The third task was weekly planning. Here, I asked AI to generate a prioritized weekly plan based on goals, deadlines, and team capacity. So what AI, the tool here is that, again, project management, we use several project management and dashboard tools. So that's what I used. I ingested them. Again, Claude or whatever project management tool you may have in your organization, whether it's Salesforce or Another one out there that I've used in the past, Calendly, which does weekly planning for me. I've used that in the past. I use that for one of my businesses, but there's a lot out there. The estimated time that it saved me on my weekly planning was around 3 hours. I mean, just managing my calendar. I don't have admin staff available to me. The organizations are lean, so I manage my own calendar. Follow-up communications. This was the fourth task. So I gave AI any post-meeting summaries, action item emails, accountability check-ins, all of that. And what AI was able to do is, again, draft and human review. So it was a combination of those two things. Any follow-up communications, it provided a draft, and then it also was able to review those post-meeting notes and accountability and those types of things. I estimated that this probably saved me about 90 minutes per week. And then the last was performance summaries. So it compiled, I gave it weekly team performance snapshots from project data. We have a project list that we maintain in teams, just in individual projects. I do it monthly. That's what I connected it to. I also connected it to our Gmail accounts, any Google Doc drives, any drives. Again, it pulled in that information. We'll talk about the power that I realized, one of the benefits of that connectivity, right? So here, AI is looking for analytical type stuff. They're looking for reporting information. And then this piece right here, it really, for me, it was context limited. So I'm not in a performance season right now. I normally don't have performance discussions outside of maybe our one-on-ones, but they're not in-depth performance discussions. So I wasn't able to really measure this, but I would imagine if we were in performance discussion that depending on your team size, it would be 1 hour to 2 hours per employee. So that'll give you an idea. So what was my first surprise? Well, my first surprise when I got into this was how much time that we waste on non-leadership tasks. So when I added up the time that I saved, it roughly came to about 8 to 10 hours per week. Now, if you work an 8-hour workday or a 10-hour workday, that is an entire workday gone from administrative stuff, or really I was able to return that time to actual leadership. And most of you out there probably don't realize how much of your week is consumed by tasks that don't require any type of human judgment. And I want to connect this back to our lead framework. So our lead framework, listen, envision, align, and drive. Two of the concepts here. Listen, AI helped me prepare to be a better listener. And it did that by surfacing the right context before every single conversation. So it gave me those pre-briefs, right? And I walked into those conversations informed and not having to scramble for the specificity or the details. I was able to actually listen. The other concept that this helped me with is envisioning. So with this, the hours that were freed up, I had the mental bandwidth to think strategically. When we are stuck in the present, our minds aren't able to think about future. So when I freed up this time, it gave me the ability to actually think strategically about where the team was headed instead of constantly putting out fires. These two things alone, I mean, most of you out there, if it will help you listen, be a better listener, and it will help you take care of all those tactical things so you can move into more strategy. I mean, come on. Those are awesome. So the story here, one of the stories is I was Monday morning of the experiment. I had back-to-back meetings. I normally don't do this, but a meeting got put on my calendar. I spend Sunday night prepping, normally reviewing the notes, building agendas, pulling in all that data. That's normally how I spend my Sundays preparing for the week. This time, though, I fed everything into AI on Friday afternoon, and then I let it generate the briefs over the weekend. So Monday morning, when I walked in, I opened up my laptop. I had the meeting briefs waiting for me. Each one had key context, the open action items from the last time that we met, and then suggested talking points. Were they perfect? No. I tweaked them maybe 20, 30%, right, of the content, but the other 80 to 70%, the foundation was pretty dang solid, right? So instead of spending my Sunday nights on admin, I got that time back. Now that may sound small, but if you're a leader who's grinding through prep every work week, every weekend, you know that getting time back changes everything about how sustainable that this job feels. And if you're leading multiple organizations like I am, it is critical to automate. And then again, 70%, there's a lot of decisions that I make with 70% of the facts. So 70%, that's a win for me. The other 20 to 30% that you have to go in, if you equate that to 100 minutes, that's 20 to 30 minutes of time that you're getting back. Tell me who wouldn't want 20 to 30 minutes back of their time. So some research here from the McKinsey study found that executives, these are executives, mid-level managers, average 23 hours per week in meetings. I can tell you right now, you look at my calendar, majority of my time is in meetings. And rate, now this is the kicker, rate more than half of that time as being ineffective. I don't know how many meetings out there that last an hour just because it's a default in our calendar, right? So leaders who use AI for meeting prep have reported 40% faster prep time in high quality discussions in those same meetings. That's just, those are statistics, right? The McKinsey Institute here. And this is recent, as of 2026. So think about it. Here's the gut check. How many hours did you spend last week on meeting prep or status updates or follow-ups and reports? Write down that number right now. Now imagine getting half of that time back. What would you do at that time? That's the question that AI is really asking leaders to answer. So that's what I handed over. Now let me tell you what happened. The wins and the failures, right? Because both are equally important. So let's talk about one of the wins. So there's three. There's three wins, and here's where I personally noticed that AI, they can handle these better than I can. The first win is speed of synthesis. AI was able to pull together data from multiple sources. I mentioned I connected it to our projects. I connected it to our calendar. I connected it to performance metrics. I connected it to my Gmail accounts, right? Where it would get past meeting notes. And we use AI to generate those meeting notes, which do a fabulous job anyways. But from one meeting to the next, that's where this helped me. It synthesized and pulled multiple pieces of information together. What would normally probably take me, I'm just guessing here, 30 to 45 minutes of a manual review of me having to go through all of that information, AI took care of it in under 60 seconds. Come on. Leaders, we aren't paid to qualify or compile information. We're paid to interpret it. If AI handles the compilation, then we can focus on the judgment. Win number one. Win number two, consistency of follow through. So AI never forgot an action item. Every follow-up was drafted. Every deadline was tracked. Every accountability loop, that thing was closed. And I'm just going to make a confession here, probably similar to many of you out there. I'm the bottleneck on follow-ups. Things slip through. People have to wait. And when people wait, that momentum begins to die. So what AI did for me in this case is it eliminated that follow-up entirely. Not because it's smarter than me, but because it doesn't get tired. It doesn't get distracted. It doesn't get overwhelmed. So this right here, this is the big shift, right? And IBM describes this shift as AI systems that can execute multi-step workflows without constant supervision, that is a huge win for any organization. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't get distracted. I mean, I can tell you how many times that I'm working on something, whether it's a document review, and even though I got my door shut, there's a knock on the door. Something urgent came up. There's a fire, right, that we got to put out. So again, these things happen day to day. The distractions will come in. AI was able to eliminate that. So that was win 2. Win 3. Here's where I want to talk about, our biases play a big part in what we do. And the number 3 win here was that I was able to get a bias-free data presentation. When I compile performance summaries manually, normally I have unconscious patterns, either recency bias, favoritism, or any type of halo effects, right? So each one of those present a challenge. AI presented the data clean. No narrative, no spin, really just what happened. So what that did is it forced me to confront the blind spots that I didn't know I had. One person I'd actually been underrating, and they were outperforming people who I considered my top talent. So that's uncomfortable, but that's exactly why it was valuable in this situation. So again, I always like to back this stuff up with research. I've seen it, but I know sometimes that that's not enough. So PwC's 2026 report on agentic AI found that experienced leaders who combine that strategic insight with AI's scale, speed, really, it dramatically expands what we would consider reach, right? So doing in hours what previously took days, Deloitte research shows that most workers prefer combining AI tools with human interactions. They don't want AI alone, and I think we all would agree that that is the case. They want AI-assisted leadership. So one thing to think about here, when is the last time that you dropped the ball on a follow-up or you spent an hour compiling data that you could have spent coaching your team? And that's the gap that AI filled for me. It's not replacing your leadership, but we're removing the friction that keeps you from leading. But here's the thing. And this is the part most AI hype channels aren't going to tell you. There were 2 areas where AI completely failed. And those failures they made me aware, at least, of exactly what makes me, irreplaceable as leaders in this organization, in any organization, the company that you're leading. So 2 things. Failure number 1, emotional intelligence. And that's been a trend over our past series of this fact that real-time conversations, AI, it prepped really flawless one-on-one agendas. They were structured, they were organized, they even backed them with data. But midweek, one of my people during this test, right, they walked into our one-on-one session, and I could tell something was off. They were more quiet than normal. They seemed like they were distracted. They just weren't themselves. So the AI agenda that it got sent out had us talking about project timelines and quarterly goals, right? All the things that I had given it to and told it to generate for us. But that wasn't what this person needed. What they needed that day was for me to set the agenda aside and say, hey, I can tell something's off here. What's going on? Do you want to talk about it? And this is where the emotional intelligence piece, AI can't read the room. They don't know what that person week has looked like. It can't sense the tension in somebody's voice. It can't notice when a person's energy just seems off. And in the truth here, trust is built in the unscripted moments. It's those moments where we throw out the plan and we show up as human beings. And that was the big aha moment for me when I talk about the failure, because that emotional intelligence piece, I don't know if AI will ever achieve that emotional intelligence, but there's one thing I don't ever want it to do is replace me as being that person that says, you know what? It's okay. Work can wait. Let's focus on you. So that was the first failure. The second failure, and I'm going to just frame it like it was a culture shaping decision, and it was under ambiguity. So later that week, and here's the scenario here, a conflict came up, and it was between two team members. Now, this wasn't a blow up. It was just something that had been quiet and simmering tension, but it was starting to affect everyone around them. So I asked AI to help think through it. AI is a thought partner, right? I got to be honest, it gave me a solid framework. It, identified the root cause, made me or suggested that I talk to both parties separately and mediate some type of resolution. The framework was fine, but it missed everything that actually mattered. The framework, it didn't include the relationship history between these two individuals. It didn't include the dynamics that, one, they were a longtime tenured contributor. The other one, they were a high performer, newer, but high performing, right? They had high ceiling potential. The culture that preceded this resolution, again, the whole team was watching here. And this emotional undercurrent of one individual feeling disrespected and the other individual feeling threatened, AI couldn't do that. It could summarize the situation, but it couldn't navigate through it. This required a human judgment. It required knowing who to talk to first, the tone that needed to be set, the words that we needed to use, or I needed to use in this case, and then the message that this would send to the rest of the team. So those two things were wake-up calls for me. I knew them walking in, but now I just know that they're more important that we teach leaders. And as I coach, these are things that, I'm going through these experiments with you all out there. I'm living and breathing in the leadership world. I have 4 organizations that I am a frontline leader for. 2 of them are volunteer organizations. So you talk about leading volunteer organizations where you can't use a money or a performance metric to keep people accountable. You got to lead with the humanality. That's what makes this experiment even more important. And there's, the bigger picture here that I want to explain is in why this matters now. Because I think everyone thinks that AI is somewhere in the future. It matters now. And the reason being is that Gartner, they have predicted that by the end of this year, 2026, 20% of organizations are going to use AI to flatten their structure. So eliminating more than half of middle management positions. Now think about that for you middle managers out there. That's scary. 20%. IMD also has a 2026 forecast that it expects a 10 to 20% reduction in traditional middle management this year. So I will tell you, PwC described the shift as moving from more of a pyramid structure to now an hourglass structure. Fewer middle managers, more AI-empowered generalists. And the managers out there who will get cut will be the ones who compile the reports, who route the information, who coordinate the schedules. Those are tasks that I mentioned above AI can handle right now. The managers who will survive, and I hate to make it such a doom and gloom, but those who will survive are the ones who build trust, are going to navigate through the uncertainty, and they're going to be the ones out there shaping culture. That's what AI can't handle. So for me, again, remember, Remember that leader from the top of the episode that I talked about? The one that was spending that 60% of his week on administrative tasks. So after I ran this experiment, and here's again a great example of why it should matter. I shared those results, and he started using AI for meeting prep and follow-ups that very same week. And a month later went by, and he said, John, I got 8 hours back. But here's what I noticed really changed. He said, I used those 8 hours to have conversations that he had been putting off for months, right? So a growth conversation with one of his highest performers, a hard feedback conversation with someone who really had been coasting this entire time. And he had a check-in conversation with a team member that he could tell was struggling. But again, and this is powerful here. So listen to this. He paused and he said, AI didn't make me a better leader. It gave him the time to be the leader that he already knew he should be. And that's the shift. AI doesn't replace your leadership. It just removes the barriers to it. And again, research here. This isn't just John coming at you today. I want to make sure I researched the heck out of this thing. And AI helped me do that, right? Because again, these are the details that add credibility to this shift. MIT Sloan Management Review reported that the most effective AI leaders in 2026 combine not only the technical AI fluency, but they also have that ethical judgment and that cultural transformation skills. And again, not just efficiency gains, 88% of organizations who have already adopted some form of AI, according to McKinsey, the differentiator now isn't whether you use AI, it's how you use it while preserving that human part of leadership. Now, that alone is something to be aware of. And again, I'm not sharing this information to scare anybody out there. That's not the point of this episode. The point is for you to look at how you are leading and the things that are getting in the way for you to do the things that only people can do. So ask yourself, this is a great question to ask. If AI took over every administrative task that's on your plate tomorrow, what would you do with that time? If you don't have an answer, that's what the real problem is. And I'm able to help. Click on our link below. I got coaching problems, or I do have coaching solutions for your problems. Let me get that right. I have coaching programs, link below, but the time is coming. Don't wait. The question is whether you're going to use it to lead or you're just going to find new ways to stay busy. And I don't want any of our listeners out there, and I know you're smarter than that, or you wouldn't be listening to podcasts like mine. Don't fall into that 20 to 30% cut. That when organizations start looking at what teams, where they can start flattening things out or hourglass, you're not one of them. So let me give you a practical framework because I always want to hand you something that you can implement. And, this is going to fit in your leadership. I'm not asking anybody out there to change their leadership style. What I'm asking is for you to take a look, just a look. Starting this week, I want you to conduct an AI audit, an AI leadership audit. So what's your plan here? Well, here's how you're going to run the same experiment that I did, right? Starting this week, I call it this AI leadership audit. In these steps, there's only 3 of them here. They're simple, they're powerful, and you can do it before Friday. So step 1, I want you to get out your journal, and I want you to write down every recurring task that you do weekly as a leader. So it could be things like meeting prep, could be things like one-on-ones, status reports, emailing, planning, follow-ups, performance reviews, right? Scheduling, whatever that looks like. Onboarding, that's a big one, especially if you got some turnover in your organizations right now. Don't filter them, don't judge. just list everything out, right? Most leaders, you are going to be shocked when you see how much of their week is non-leadership work. So now we have that list. What I want you to do with that list is we're going to bucket it. We got 3 buckets here. You're going to sort them. So the first bucket is what AI can own. The second bucket is what they can assist. And then the third bucket's going to be human-only stuff. So the way that I want you to determine, or the definition of each one of this bucket, and then I'll give you each one of these buckets, and then I'll give you an example, is things that AI can own are repetitive tasks. They're data-driven tasks. They're going to be low-context tasks that don't really require any of our human judgment, okay? And each one of these tasks could be things like meeting prep, could be things like status reports, right? Data compilation. Again, those are things that AI can own. What can AI assist you with? That's the second bucket here. So examples, or the definition really of this bucket first, is tasks that AI draft and you refine. So your judgment is going to shape the final output. Think of it that way. So examples: strategic communication, presentation outlines, performance summaries, right? Planning documents. Those are examples of things that AI can assist you do. Now, the third bucket, human-only bucket. So take those tasks. These are things that are going to require our empathy, require our trust, that contextual judgment, right? Or anything that is going to shape our cultures. So examples: conflict resolution, as I talked about earlier with 2 employees. Recognition, any type of growth conversation that you're going to have. Those hard feedback conversations that you've been putting off, right? Those are examples of things. So sort, and then the last one, this was the fun one for me, is test them. I want you to pick one from the AI can own it column. I want you to set it up with a free AI tool. Again, there's free versions of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Notebook LM. Those are just examples of free versions. If I were you, I'd pay that $20. It's well worth it. Just do the full entire tool. That way you can use the cold folder features in it, load some information in it. That's for another episode, but those are the 4 free ones. Now, I want you to run it for 1 week, and you're going to measure how much time you are saving, the quality of the output, and then what you did with that reclaimed time. Okay, so this is the test, and then you're going to expand. So the next week, you're going to add another task, and this is going to help you build momentum. So the tie-in here to our lead framework is the first part: listen, right? This audit is the listen phase. This is where you're going to listen to your own workflow before trying to fix it. Then you're going to envision. You're going to imagine your week with 5 to 10 hours reclaimed. What kind of leader could you be? And then alignment, share what you're testing with your team. Make sure that there's transparency there. So transparency is going to build that trust during the change. And then you're going to drive home the commitment to the experiment. Just 1 task, 1 week, measure the results here. So these things, I was working with a leader, and here's the power behind all of this. She told me that she was just overwhelmed to try anything new. Okay, we had talked through, I proposed this test, and she was working long weeks. She didn't have any other time. She couldn't put anything else on her plate. She was barely keeping her head above water. So we finally agreed to just do step 1. Just list out her weekly tasks. She came back with 34 items. I helped her sort them together. 14 of them were tasks that fell in this AI can own it bucket. 14, right? Out of the 34. So she started with 1. She automated her weekly status reports using AI. That 1 task alone saved 90 minutes in the first week. By week 3, you can imagine, she'd automated 5 tasks and she reclaimed nearly 6 hours. And what did she do? She used that time to have growth conversations with her team members that she had been neglecting. feedback from her team. One of them told her that this was the first time in a long time that someone asked them about their future with the organization. And here's what the ripple effect is. AI, it gives you time. But if you take that time and you fill it with more busy things, guess what? It's not going to work. This experiment is not going to work. It's what you do with the time that it creates. That's what makes you a better leader. So research again here in this area that studies on habit forming. Remember I talked about earlier, our minds, if we are stuck in firefighting mode, we can't think about the future. We can't envision a past. And studies have shown that habit forming, like scheduling specific times for new behaviors, increases our follow-through by 91%. And Gartner reports that workers with AI skills command wage premiums up to 50% higher than their peers. So AI fluency, it's becoming a leadership differentiator, not just a skill that's nice to have. And here's your assignment, because we're going to bring this to a close. But I always like to leave you guys with a practical application. So your assignment before this episode ends is grab that sheet of paper, grab a pen, open a note on your phone, whatever that looks like, write down every reoccurring task that you do as a leader. Then put each one into a bucket. AI can own it, AI can assist, or it's human only, and then pick one from that first bucket of AI can own it, and try it with AI before Friday. So that's it. One task, 1 week, start there. Let's bring this home now. Recap. First, I ran that experiment. I ran the experiment handling my leadership week. I handed it over to AI, right? Every single bit of it. The results, they were really eye-opening for me. Most of what ate up my time as a leader, it didn't actually require me to be in the room. It was those meeting preps, the follow-ups, compiling data. AI handles those faster and more consistently than we do. The second piece, AI crushed 3 tasks: speed of synthesis, that consistency of follow-through, and the bias-free data, but it completely failed at the 2, emotional intelligence in real time, and any of those culture-shaping decisions. The failures were exactly where we're going to spend time when we get the time back. And then third is the framework. Now, your AI leadership audit. So you're going to list, you're going to sort, and then you're going to test. Just one task, 1 week. Start it this Friday. Here's what I want you to remember. First, thank you for sticking with us today. All the way through the episode, I know this episode is going to help you, because AI, it's not coming for your leadership role. It's coming for parts of your role that don't require you to be human. And the leaders who will win in 2026 won't be the ones who resist AI. They won't be the ones who blindly hand over everything over to AI. They're going to be the ones who know the difference, who use AI to handle the logistics, so that way we can focus on what human leadership looks like. Building trust, navigating conflict, developing our people, shaping our culture. So again, those middle managers out there, think about it. Gartner says companies are beginning to flatten out. The middle management tier is shrinking. The leaders who survive won't be the ones who compile their best reports. They're going to be the ones who have the best conversations. So don't let AI replace you. Let it release you to be the leader your team actually needs. If this episode challenged you, here's what I'd ask. 1, share it with somebody who's either ignoring AI or they're drowning in the administrative work. Someone who needs to hear this, that there is a better way out there. Send them this episode right now. 2, subscribe, hit that notification bell. We're kicking off a brand new series here, productivity. We're going to talk about systems and personal brand with AI. So this week, this series is going to be fire. Next episode, we're going in deeper into how AI won't replace leaders, but leaders who use the AI, they will replace those who don't. So you're not going to want to miss that. And then third, drop a comment. Let me know, hey, tell me what's the first task that you're going to hand over to AI this week. Put it in writing. Accountability matters. So Thank you very much. If you want to continue to get on our email list, there's a link below. We're going to share all of our audit worksheets, any tips, tricks. It's a weekly email, doesn't cost anything. Sign up, please. It's in the description link. Until next time, keep leading, keep growing. I believe in you. Go be great. See you on the next episode. Bye-bye.